Hello everyone, my name's Sarah Besser and I'm going to be taking you through a 5-session beginners course. So we're going to be taking it right back to basics today. What I'm going to start with, just explaining, just briefly before we get started on the actual exercise, is that there are kind of 5 underlying principles to Pilates. And they're the things that we need to kind of be thinking about with each move that we make. Okay, so the first one is all about our breathing. Obviously breathing is very important, as we all know, and with our breathing what we're doing is we're taking a breath in through the nose and then we do it out through pursed lips, so a kind of sound. And whilst we're doing that exhale, we're also thinking about our pelvic floor and our abdominals. So we're just gently drawing those that pelvic floor in, which will activate our abdominals and kind of draw those in as well. So there's this kind of breath, pelvic floor, abdominal connection. Okay, so I'll talk you through that a lot as we go along. Anyway. Then taking it down, it's going to be about your head positioning. So we want to think about having our ear over our shoulder. Obviously a lot of us, because we're sitting in desk positions and we're on phones and what have you, we do tend to have this kind of forward head posture. So the whole idea of Pilates is that we're kind of lengthening through the torso and we're making sure that we're in this nice alignment. So we're going to think about making sure that we've got that head over the shoulders and that spine is in that nice alignment. Then we have our shoulder blades. So maybe when you were younger, and when I was younger, my mum used to always be like, shove your chest out, open your, shove your shoulders back. And what I don't want you to do is just that kind of shoving the shoulders back. It's all about thinking about your scapula, your shoulder blades, and gliding them down the back. So we're kind of drawing them gently back and down the rib cage. Okay, so that's our shoulders. We also think about our rib cage as well. So our kind of lower ribs are attached to our abdominals. So we want to make sure that we keep those ribs down so that we're not kind of lifting up and arching through our back. Okay, we want to keep those. With that breath, we're going to exhale, we're going to draw those abdominals in, and you're going to keep those ribs down at the same time. So you've got a rib cage, and then we also have our pelvic positioning. So whether we're going to be in our neutral position or an imprint position, and we change between those two depending on kind of our leg positioning and what kind of support we need for our spine and our core. But I'm going to go through all of those now with you. So what we're going to do is start with that breath. So you're going to sit up nice and tall. So I want you to have this nice back posture. Try not to arch through the back. Now I know this is incredibly uncomfortable for a lot of people. It's just not a normal position to sit in, and I certainly couldn't sit in it particularly long. So if you're feeling like you are slouching a little bit through that lower back, sit on a block is a good thing to do, or sit on the edge of a chair or something. Okay, so we're sitting up nice and tall. We're going to draw those shoulder blades down our back, and we're just going to do that breathing. So we're going to breathe in through the nose and then exhale through the mouth. And I want you to think about, you can put your hands on your rib cage. Okay, I'm just going to move my feet. So on your rib cage, and what I want you to do is kind of breathe into your hands. So when you take that inhale, it should expand into your hands. You should feel that movement under your hands. And then as you exhale, that kind of collapses back in. And with that exhale, we want to be thinking about that drawing up of the pelvic floor and just gently drawing those abdominals in at the same time. So it's a nice... What you want to just be aware of is just those shoulders as well. Because some of us breathe slightly differently and hold that breath in different positions. So you could potentially be okay, what we want to do is try and prevent that. So I really want you to think about that kind of 3D breath, we call it, kind of expanding out to the side. Just give me one more of those. Exhale, pull that pelvic floor in. And when you're exhaling, when you're in this position, what we don't want as well is to just kind of collapse into it. So we're still staying in that nice upright position. Okay, so the next one, we're actually going to lean over this time. So you're going to lean over in this kind of arched position, and we're going to do the same thing. So you're going to breathe through your nose, try and expand through that rib cage again, out the sides, and then exhaling as we're drawing that pelvic floor in and drawing those abdominals in. So we're not trying to let our abdominals kind of just relax on our thighs. We're kind of in an active position. Once again, relax the shoulders. You might find that it's a little bit harder in this position because you're basically constricting that diaphragm. And then one more. Okay, and then you're going to roll down onto your mat. So you can either roll straight back, or if you want to, you can, if you maybe you've got a sore back or anything like that, and probably go down onto the side and then roll over onto your back. Okay, so down on our back here, I'm just going to bring those feet in. And what I want you to do here is just do some little pelvic tilts. So you're going to push that back down into the ground and then arch it up. Okay, just give me a couple of, so the bum's staying on the ground, you're not kind of squeezing and lifting the bum off the ground. You just, this lower back is just lifting and lowering. Okay, so just have a wrap around between those two extremes, and then I want you to find that midpoint between those 2 points. Okay, so for me, I've got a little bit of a gap underneath my back. You might find that you haven't really got one. It's down to your kind of physiology. But what I want you to think about, I want to have a look at, is that you've got your pubic bone and your hip bone is like a triangle. So if you put your hands like so, and then pop it on your, so your palms are on your hip bones and then your fingers are on your pubic bone, that triangle needs to be parallel to the floor. So you don't want it up here when the pubic bone is sticking up there, and you don't want it going down the other way where you've then got this massive arch underneath your back. So just try and find that position that's generally, as I say, midpoint between those 2 extremes. So this is our neutral positioning, okay? So from here, what I want you to do is some of that breathing again. So you're going to, this time, inhale, and as you exhale, you're going to draw your belly button, really kind of sucking it in, but keeping that back positioning the same. So put your hand underneath your back. So you're going to breathe in, exhale, draw the abdominals in, almost like you're trying to get into a pair of skinny jeans or a wetsuit or something. And then inhale as you release that tension. So exhale. So what you shouldn't be feeling is any pressure on your hand. So that back shouldn't be moving. So it's just your abdominals are moving towards the spine, and the spine staying where it is. If that makes sense. Okay. So this is your core that's having to work here. So don't forget, with that exhale, we're drawing that pelvic floor up as well. Okay, so staying in this neutral position, just make sure we've got our feet about hip width apart, and we're just going to do some leg slides. So you're wanting to keep this pelvis exactly as it currently is. So we want no movement in the back, we want no movement kind of side to side. So you're just going to exhale as you lengthen your foot along your mat. And then the temptation is when that leg goes to there, that back arches up. So you want to try and make sure you're staying in that neutral position. So again, it's that exhale. You're still drawing those abdominals in. And then inhale to bring it back in. So alternate legs. So you're going to exhale as we lengthen down the mat. Inhale, bring it back in. Really think about that breath, keeping that pelvis nice and still. Okay, so just going to do a few on each leg. So there literally shouldn't be any movement at all around this pelvic area. Everything stays the same, and you're just activating those abdominals, drawing them in. Okay, and bring that leg in. Then you're going to test it again, but we're going to open out the hip.
So from here, again, keeping those hips nice and still, so you can keep your hands on your hips just to check that they're not moving. And you're going to exhale as you open one knee out to the side, and then we inhale, bring it back out in again. So we exhale and inhale. So when you exhale and you're lengthening out, the tendency is, so if I'm opening this one, the tendency is for that other side to almost, and this is obviously exaggerated, but this side to kind of lift off and almost kind of want to follow it. So I want you to think about really kind of planting this side down. So we're really using that exhale to kind of stay nice and stable. Maybe not let that, not let the leg drop completely outwards. So go to where you can keep control of it. Okay, so making sure that the leg that's staying where it is actually staying where it is. It's not moving anywhere at all. You can stay on one side and just do maybe 4 on each side, and then move to the other one afterwards. Or you can do alternating like I was doing. And relax it there. Okay. So we're just going to take it into that imprint. So that was your neutral, and generally our neutral is when we've got kind of feet on the floor. Okay, but when we need that extra protection, when we've got our legs up in the air, we're going to go into our imprint. Okay, so I'm talking about this tabletop is this position. When we're in this position, this is where we want to kind of try and get our abdominals to flatten our back down a little bit to protect our spine, our lower back. Okay, so for this one, what I want you to do is again put that hand back underneath your back, and this time when you're doing that exhale, I want you to make sure it's a really forceful exhale, because what you're wanting to do is not stop at the spine, just the spine stays where it is, and the belly button comes towards the spine like we were doing with the neutral. I want you to actually actively use those abdominal strength to push your back down into your hand. So we exhale, and we're squashing into that hand. So I want you to really actively push down and then release it. But what we're not doing again is we're not just tilting the pelvis like we did just at the beginning. You're not this tailbone is not kind of moving anywhere. So there shouldn't be much pelvic movement. So when you're thinking about this pubic triangle, there shouldn't be. There'll be a little bit of movement where your pubic bone's maybe slightly coming up, but that's not what we're aiming for. We're not aiming for it to come all the way up. So inhale, exhale, push it down. As I say, nice forceful exhale. Okay, so you're going to test that out. By all means, keep practicing that. So you're going to test that out with some leg lifts. Okay, so we're just going to start with a 1 leg lift. So you're going to exhale, do that imprint, so as you can see, I've got no space underneath my back, belly's flat. And you're going to lift that leg at the same time as doing that exhale. And then inhale and release those abdominals. Okay, so as soon as obviously I've got a flat stomach there, I'm not just going to go as I do that, because it's going to hurt the back. So you want to keep hold of that tension for the inhale as well. Okay, so we exhale, imprint and lift. And then we inhale and relax the stomach. Okay, we'll go with the other side. So exhale, lift up that other leg. And then lower it down on your inhale and relax the stomach. Okay, so you're going to carry on doing some singles. And then what I want you to do, if that seems absolutely fine, then you're going to try the double legs. Okay, so if the double leg seems just a little bit too much, go back and just do the single ones, practice those, and you'll eventually get enough strength to be able to do both. Okay, so with the lifting both, we're going to exhale, do our imprint, lift 1 leg, And then you can inhale, lift the other one, we're keeping this tension. Exhale, lower the first one. Inhale, lower the second one. And then we're going to relax those abdominals, okay? So if you watch that again. And relax. Okay, so you're going to do those. Or if that's too slow in terms of the breathing, obviously everybody's got different breath pace, you could go both up on your exhale and then both down on your inhale. So that's it. So just pick which of those options works with you. Because we're doing leg lifts and we're going up with one leg first, what I want you to do is you're going to do one, a couple with that leg leading, and then the next time around you go a couple with that leg leading as well, just so we've got both of them. What you will possibly find when you're doing this is that you'll lift the first one, and then the second one is just that a little bit too much, and you end up losing that connection and the back lifts, okay? If that happens, I want you to go back to doing that single leg one, okay? Equally, you might get to the point you might be okay with the two legs, but then you kind of lose it as you're lowering them both down. Again, just go back to the basics and do the single leg one. Okay, so from here, we're just going to move up the body a little bit. So we're going to go to our shoulders. So you're going to have your arms up in front of you. You're going to widen across your shoulder blades. So you're going to inhale as you reach those fingertips up to the ceiling as though somebody's pulling you by the hands, and then relax them back down. So we inhale as we lift up, and then we exhale as we lower back down. So just widening across the back. Nothing else is moving. Don't need to control it too much on the way down, it's just dropping down. And then you're going to take it the other way, so you're going to squeeze those shoulder blades into the mat and then relax. So an inhale, squeeze them in, and then relax. Squeeze and relax. And we'll last one of those. And relax it down. Okay, we're going to take it back to kind of the pelvis and a bit more of our spinal articulation. And you're going to go into what we call a hip roll. So there's a variation of a glute bridge. So you're going to have your feet hip width apart. Again, we're going to make sure we're keeping them like that. And then from here, so you start in your neutral, and then you're going to push that back down as you curl that tailbone up off the mat. And you're just peeling yourself away from the floor till you get in this kind of nice straight line from your knee to your neck. And then we squeeze our glutes, and then we curl down from the sternum, so curling through the body there, and then we eventually come back down, and we come back to our neutral again. Okay, so we need to exhale as we lift up. We're going to inhale and squeeze at the top there, and then we're going to exhale as we curl our way back down again. Relax. Okay. So again, what I want you to think about here, as well as your breath, as well as that glute squeezing, is that we want to kind of activate through the whole of our foot as well. So if you're pushing in just kind of more with your heels, you're going to get more kind of hamstrings down the back of your leg. But if you push in with the whole of your foot, you'll get much more of the whole of the thigh. So try and push in with those toes and the balls of the feet whilst you're doing it. And just really think about trying to go down through your spine in like the vertebra at a time. Okay. So just nice and slow, and just, take note of where the kind of sticky points are. You might find you just kind of thud down for like the last bit, or you might kind of feel like you've got your upper back is all kind of fused together or something. Just take it as it comes at the moment and just, you know, notice how it changes over time. Try and keep those knees hip width apart as well. Okay, so we're going to add on some arms here. Okay, so what we're going to do here is you have your hands overhead, and as we curl up, we're going to take those arms overhead. Okay, those arms stay overhead, and then we try and curl our way back down again. Now it's much harder for this top bit to come down when your arms are overhead like so. Okay, so if it is too much and it just feels like you just need to practice the initial move, then don't worry too much about this part. But if you feel like you actually move quite smoothly through your back, then maybe try this one. Okay, just do one more. One left and over. Okay, all right. So we're going to take it into what we call an ab prep position, which is basically, as the name suggests, prepping yourself for abdominal exercises. So when we're talking about abdominals, which I'm talking about your kind of flexion forward exercises. So what we're going to do here is you start off in your neutral, and we're going to look at that head positioning. So obviously we've got our ears over our shoulders whilst we're lying down, and we want to try and keep that that positioning. So, but we're wanting to protect our neck, and obviously we're not going to be doing this kind of looks a bit weird and feels a bit weird. So we do need to protect our neck a little bit. So what you're wanting to do have is kind of a fist-shaped space between your chin and your chest. Okay, so it's almost just like you need to think about a little head nod. So imagine you've got a set of traffic lights in front of you and you're just looking from the red to the green. So it's a little nod, and then we're going to lift up. Okay, so you do your little head nod on your inhale, and then as you exhale, you're going to lift your shoulders up off the ground and reach forward. Okay, and then you're just look through your knees and then lower back down. Okay. So the idea is staying in that neutral, so we're not lifting too. If we lift too high, we're going to push that back down into the mat. So we're not aiming for that. We want to stay in that neutral. So we inhale, head nod. We exhale, draw our pelvic floor in and our abdominals in to lift up. We inhale just to look through our knees, and then we exhale as we lower ourselves back down and relax the head and the shoulders. So the head. Lift up. So again, I want you to think about drawing the belly button to the spine, but not pushing down with that back. So you've just basically, you've got kind of almost like the bottom of your shoulder blades are kind of still in the mat. So you're not lifting up too high. If it's too much for your neck, which it might be if you haven't done this type of exercise before or for a long time, your neck might be a little bit sore, so you can always put your hand behind your head. So do your head nod still, then lift it up and just reach with one hand, and then you've just got that little bit of extra support. Try not to kind of push the head forward or anything like that, but just have it there as a bit of protection for support. Okay, the head. Okay, and we'll do one last one. Trips are there. Okay, we're going to take it onto your side. We're just going to do a little bit of spinal rotation. So we've got obviously articulated through the spine, but now this time we're going to rotate it. So you're going to get yourself in a nice long line from your head down to your feet, and you're going to have your arm out to the front here. You can have a cushion there if you feel like it's a bit weird having your head lying down on the floor from there. And then you're going to just bring those knees in slightly, but we're still going to keep those feet in line with our back. And we've got everything stacked, so our shoulders are stacked, so we're not kind of leaning back on top of each other, hips stacked, knees stacked, etc. So you're going to have your hands together, and we're going to breathe in, and then as we exhale, we're going to, keeping those hips where they are, exhale and open out. Okay, and we're going to inhale to hold at that back point, and then we're going to exhale, drawing those abdominals and the pelvic floor in to come back into the centre. Right, so what I want you to be thinking about here is that we're trying to work our obliques, the side of our body. So all the work is coming to the satter. All the work is coming from here. So we're twisting round. It's that kind of movement, okay? So what I want you to think about is having that arm and that's not an arm, that arm and the chest is kind of all as one, moving as one. So you kind of, this whole side of your body is kind of moving round. Okay, so what I often see is that this arm is kind of moving independently, which is not really what we're after here. We're wanting the whole thing to go in unison, and then you get to a point where this won't move any further. Don't then let the arm go further. The arm needs to stay where you've got to, that kind of end point. So what I always say to people is imagine you're kind of on Strictly Come Dancing, because they have to have their arms like this and everything's like that. So I want you to think of that when you're doing your exercise here. So we exhale, and taking it all the way over. That's as far as mine's going to go on this side. I stop, and then I bring it back in again. Okay, so we're just going to do those. I just want you, whenever you're doing any of these exercises, I'll try and tell you when I'm doing them, like where we're actually, what muscles we're trying to work and what action we're trying to do. So if you always kind of think about those rather than, trying to get as far as you possibly can, I want you just to think, right, I'm working these sides, so that's as far as I can go, okay, I think I'll bring it back again. Okay, so I just want you to really think about what you're actually doing. And we'll bring it back in. So there. Okay, then we'll take it over to the other side, obviously. And so that's the thing with Pilates, it is all about being quite mindful about what you're actually doing and what your body's capable of. Okay, so as you're getting this straight line to start with, and then just bring those legs in, make sure you've got your feet in alignment with the rest of your spine. Okay, so again, exhaling as we open out, inhale, back point, and then exhale, bring it back in again. So keeping those hips nice and still. Open it out. So for me, this side isn't as good as the other side, so I can't go quite as far on this side. It's the one that kind of needs the work. So you will probably find, well, you'll probably notice in Pilates in general that you'll have imbalances on one side compared to the other. So it's quite normal. Lovely. Okay, we'll just do a couple more on this side. So I appreciate I was talking on the other side, so hopefully you were still doing whilst I was talking. Ultimately, we want to do about 8 on each side. Okay, and then bring it around. Okay, so I'm now going to show you our breaststroke prep. So your breaststroke prep is all about kind of back extension. So obviously your core is not just your superficial ab muscles, it's loads of deep core muscles, lots of postural muscles, and your back is included in that. So we're going to work our back, and we're also going to be working kind of our shoulder blades with this one as well. So you're going to think about length with this one as well. So your options, you've got two different options really to start with. So you're going to either have your hands either side of your ears, like a knife and fork either side of the plate, okay? And you've got your feet about hip width apart, you've got your feet pointed, you keep your feet on the floor, and we breathe in, and then as we exhale, we lift ourselves up, and we draw those shoulders down our back, okay? So I'm just hovering off the ground, I've not gone very far, and then we lower ourselves back down again. And we exhale. Draw those shoulders away from the ears. We want to imagine somebody pulling us by the hair and pulling us by those feet. We're sort of lengthening through the legs. And then we're lowering back down. That's your first option. Or, if you prefer, you can have your hands down by your side. So for this option, again, exhale, lift up, reach those shoulders away from your ears and reach those fingers towards your toes. So they're kind of hovering off the ground here. And then we lower them back down. On our inhale, relax the shoulders. Exhale, lift and reach. And then lower it down again. So now with this one, we also need to, well with both of these, you need to think about drawing your abdominals in a little bit as well. So imagine you've got an ice cube underneath your belly button, because you don't want to go into your lower back. And that's what's going to happen if you're kind of bearing down, pushing through your stomach, okay? So we'll exhale, draw the abdominals in, lengthen through those legs. You've got that bit of a bum squeeze as well. And lower it down. Your head, again, is in alignment with your spine. So you're not looking up when you're lifting. It's just looking down at the floor still. Okay? And you're going to do one more. Lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. And lower it down. Then you're going to pop your hands to your chest. You're going to push yourself up. And you're going to come into a little shell stretch. So I'm just going to arch over and just reach the rest your head on the ground if you wish. And we're just kind of arching through the back the opposite way to what we were doing. So generally when we do any kind of back extension work, we want to do this kind of flexion work and stretch afterwards. If it's too much on your knees, if you've got any knee problems, what you want to do is just come up onto all fours, and we're just going to go into a cat stretch instead. Okay, so you can do either of those options. Okay, so that is kind of your basic intro, and that's what I kind of incorporate into my warm-ups most of the time as well. And just a few notes really, is that, as I mentioned already, it's quite a mindful exercise, so I really want you to kind of switch off from the outside world and just think about what your body is doing, what it's capable of, and take note of how it is today as compared to when we're doing like session 3 or something. Things will change. And also the other thing is that it is very much quite slow and controlled exercise format, so there's no jumping around. You're not going to get loads of like really sweaty or out of breath particularly. It's all, as I said, very slow and controlled. And there may be occasions where you think, oh, am I doing, is this right? Because I'm not actually feeling it. So if you aren't feeling it in the places that I say that you should be feeling it, really have a think about it and listen to what I'm trying to explain to you. Obviously, I can't come and correct you and put you in the different positions, but sometimes it just requires just a slight tweak. So just realigning those hips or making sure you've got that head in the right positioning. It could be just a slight little tweak that needs to be made. So listen for my cues, and hopefully I'll be able to give you the ability to then self-correct. But generally, if you're not feeling the exercise where I'm saying you're feeling it, there is probably something that you're not quite right with in terms of the alignment. So yeah, basically just be aware of what I'm saying and just try and work out what your body needs to do to correct that. And obviously, you can reach out to me and let me know if you've got any issues. So I hope you enjoyed your introduction. Next session, I will develop on that. We'll go on from our warm-up and we'll add on a few of the key moves. So I look forward to seeing you then. Bye.